Welcome to Sober Talk. I'm Dennis and I'm an alcoholic. Sober today thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous. If you or anyone you know is struggling with alcohol, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 222222 or visit their website at aa.org.au. I'll just run through the preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for a membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety.
Hi, my name is Ash. I'm an alcoholic. Ash.
Hey,
It's a real honor to be asked to be a guest speaker here. So I am a 35-year-old. I have just celebrated a little over 4 years of sobriety, one day at a time. And thank you. And I'm also going to mention and put a shout out to my little rabbits at home, Milo and Bella. Now, the only reason that I shout them out is because they are one of the many symbols of my recovery. They keep me grounded. They're like my children. There's something that I would not have if I was actively drinking. No one back in the day, no one back in the day would have trusted me to keep a house plant alive, let alone two little animals, and so yeah, I mean, I usually would share about what I did when I was drinking. The amount of things that I could tell you what I got up to when I was drinking, I'd go into tomorrow. But, I'm a garden variety alcoholic. It's probably nothing you've never heard before, right? So this is a spiritual meeting, so I'm going to sort of just focus on my spiritual journey, starting with I would say that basically, as long as I remember, back when I was a kid, I was always very angry, very anxious, I hated the world. I hated everything. I hated the world. And look, I didn't really know this. You don't know these things until you go into AA and you start practicing your program. But I hated everything and everyone. It's because it's what it represented inside of me that I didn't like about myself. I was that people-pleasing, driven. I was a driven person. I got really good grades in school. The main reason I got good grades in school is because on the Ash I don't get B's. Ash doesn't get B's, he gets A's. So I was always driven by fear of not succeeding, fear of financial security, fear of losing control. And I saw that as normal because I didn't think of anything else. I didn't know. Look, I didn't actually question it too much. What I did question is, why is anyone else around me thinking like that or acting like that? But that's how I carried on my life. And I didn't add drinking alcohol to the equation until I was about 20. But I always had that head, and I hadn't had a name for it. I didn't know what it was. Why did I feel like that way? And so I said, I drank enough to get here. But as much as I hated everyone and everything, one of the biggest things I did not have any time of day for was anything to do with religion, spirituality, and all this other stuff. And I'm concentrating on that because it's a spiritual meeting. And I didn't even know the difference between spirituality and religion. I thought it was just something that people that weren't considered religious would call themselves something else, to seem more important. But it's a lot different to that. And spirituality and religion is not, it's a completely different thing. And they are intertwined, of course. And using the word God and using the word fear, I would not do that. I'm a man. I was not brought up with these ideals, but somewhere along the way, I was sort of the man that I don't cry. I didn't cry growing up when I tripped over. I didn't cry when family members died, because of fear, and crying was a sign of weakness. I was just angry. I was just an angry Ash. And I did not believe that anger and fear were the same thing. And so I didn't use the word God. God made me feel dirty. It made me feel dirty coming out of my mouth. I would not do that. And if I heard it, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Try to mention anything about the Bible or any of that stuff. No, I would want to punch you in the face. I would have all those arguments against why God exists and what happens with this and what happens with this, right? Because I'm just shooting crap, right? I'm just coming up with my own sort of idea of it. And again, when I first come into AA, I was the same thing. I mean, I come into AA because I just wanted to create the illusion that I'm trying with my drinking. I didn't come in here. Kicking and screaming, but I didn't come in here willingly. My family suggested it, so I came in with them, and I didn't care about it. I didn't like it. I didn't want it. I was genuinely happy with all the success stories around me, but good on you. Don't put that crap on me. All I wanted to do was go home and drink. That's it. And so I'm a garden variety alcoholic. That's what alcoholics are like in addiction. They just want to go home and do what they do best. Or do what I did. Well, thought I did best was drink. And little did I know, from the first time I ever came here, I didn't know, I didn't want to know, I didn't realize, but AA was doing something for me in my own head. That the saying, I'm not going to swear in here, but the saying that it starts effing with your drinking, it starts screwing with your drinking, and it did. I mean, by that time I was drinking 4 liters of wine a day, and I was stealing from everyone around me, pawning everything I could get my hands on because I needed that wine. That I didn't actually think I was an alcoholic. It was just, I wanted to do it. I got no obsession over this stuff. I got no power over it. Who are you to tell me that I might have an alcohol problem? Who are you to tell me that I need to go to AA, right? But in my own mind, we are the manipulative types. If I, in my own brain, I'm thinking in their own brain, if I go to AA and at least try it, it would justify me to go home and have a drink, And I did that on and off for a while. I went to AA, I'll come home, I drank. I did 1 meeting a week at Salisbury. But over time, and I genuinely believe it was linked, is that towards the end, because when I drank, I wasn't an angry, anxious person, a judgmental person. I was happy, bubbly Ash, wanted to sit home, get drunk, play video games. That's all I wanted to do. But by the end of that, it made me feel gross. It made me feel worse than when I was sober. And I genuinely believe it is AA that was working in my own head that caused that to happen. But more importantly, it was something to do with a power of my own understanding, which I had learnt a little bit from when I come into AA, if I was actually listening to what was happening. But I never, as I said, by that time, I still didn't like the word God. I didn't like anything to do with it. But I said it started screwing my drinking a little bit. I found myself in periods of not drinking. I wouldn't call it sobriety. Or maybe I shouldn't be pawning my brother's stuff. Maybe I shouldn't be stealing my father's DVDs to get a drink. So I might just go without today. That's how it happened. So it started changing stuff in me. And then I started to go through the whole story where I stopped drinking. I went in delirium tremens in hospital. I come out and then I was just AA. It was great. I stayed sober for 15 months. I was going to meetings. I made AA my home. Meetings after meetings after meetings. I got a sponsor. Started going through the steps. The thing is, I did the steps. I did all the steps in 3 months. Because I could say that I've done them, That's how I carried out my 15 months of not drinking. But I said I've got a higher power. I said I've got to go to my understanding because that's part of the program, right? You need to have that tick. I ticked all the boxes, right? But by the end of that 15 months, I was stopped going to meetings. I thought I was fell in the same trap, and then I decided that I wanted to test that theory where I'm an alcoholic or not, and I picked up a drink. And then it took 5 months, 5-month long hell, I describe it, from the moment I picked up the drink to the moment it was put down. Now, the thing that got me is because apart from other things like I like intellect and I like this. I can't sit right with not knowing things. I have to Google things. I can't just sit there and just, oh, it might have been. I have to figure it out, right? So after 5 months when I was in hospital again, that's where alcohol took me, I went to a meeting and I got drunk again. But it was a few days after, January 2nd, 2022. And I was living with my father at the time, and I picked this as my date because my father, my best friend, he's stuck through me thick and thin, never left my side. I was coming down from my latest binge. I was actually like starting to feel a bit better, as you do. And I go into the lounge room, he's watching TV, and he says, Ash, you're looking a bit better now. But I was craving a drink. I was really craving a drink. I went into my room, I tried to find any bit of alcohol I could, and I found an empty little bourbon bottle about that big. And I tried to lick it out. Like there was barely anything in there, but I was licking it clean. And I went into the lounge room again. And the first thing my father said to me, he says, have you got alcohol in the house, Ash? No, I don't. I don't have alcohol. No, I don't. He says, well, your eyes changed, your skin changed, and now you're talking differently again than you did 5 minutes ago. I mean, I've always got resentful. I mean, no one's going to question my drinking, right? But it wasn't then and there. It was later on. I started going to meetings. I started trying to do the next best thing. What I did is I actually left my car at home, planned journeys. I caught 3 buses sometimes to go to a meeting, intentionally stayed out late. So by the time I got home, I was too tired to do anything, go to bed, wake up and do it again. I did that for about 3 months. Somewhere along the way, I got a new sponsor, started working through the sponsor. I couldn't tell you where in that it was. It might have been step 3 or 4 again. But something had clicked in my psyche. I was going to meetings, and for the first time when I was sharing, I could share about what was going on in here. What was going on in between these two ears. And I could use the word God and not feel dirty about it. So it's like when you get glimpse of how you've changed, over the time. But also, it clicked is that moment when my father said to me, I didn't know what to make of it at the time. And then I was left with a quandary. I was left with, well, why am I still not drunk? Why was it only 5 months? Why am I still not drunk again? Well, it can't have been anything I did. So you hear about all the people that are here over the years in the meetings, Eddie, Arthur, Jeff, and John, yeah. Peter, everyone. And it's not you, it's God. And I mean, I sort of wrestled with the idea. I wasn't sort of kind of hung up on the idea, but I'll describe it. I was beaten enough and I was desperate enough just to see how that would go. And that sparked my spiritual journey. I started, doing meditations. I started going to the spiritual speakers meetings. I started doing spiritual tapes. I started, I even went to church just to see what it's like. That was about a year and a half ago. And then a year ago, I got baptized. Now, I have a lifelong fear of putting my head underwater. But when that morning, I got baptized in front of about 100 people and I did not care. Little things like that give me the glimpse that something has shifted along the way. And then continuing with my step work, I realized that moment when my father asked me if I had alcohol and I took that small amount to actually make my eyes change, my skin change, and I start talking differently, I believe today that God put those words in my best friend's mouth to deliver it to me when I was questioning my alcoholism, because ever since then, I have not questioned it once. And the reason for that is because I have to keep trying to practice the program and keep to the best of my ability to what I've got in with me right now and the tools that I have, to practice my program to the best of my ability to maintain that. Because they say the alcoholic brain is in the back of their head doing push-ups waiting for you to screw up. I stay ahead of the curve by trying to do everything that I'm taught in these rooms, and first and foremost is that these rooms and doing everything in these rooms keeps me close to God, because AA introduced me to God. AA keeps my faith in God. My disease will prevail if I stop doing what I'm doing. Now, January 2nd, 2022, a little over 4 years of not having a drink. Now, my sobriety date used to be my driving force. My first 15 months, my sobriety, that was my driving force. I saw, because I'm a little bit of a gamer too, I see it as my high score. For every day that I'm sober, I've got a higher score, right? Now, this bust and everything that transpired during it, everything that transpired after it, has humbled me, knowing that this is a day, that my sobriety date is a good day to remember. It's a pinnacle of my life. It's the start of my new life. But it's just a day, really. Because the only difference between me and someone who walks through these doors for the very first time is by the grace of my God, I got here before they did. And I got here enough to be able to listen to what the solution is. You know, I still go to church because I found something that works. And this is not, of course, it's not a religious program, it's a spiritual one. And I used to have all these, I had the answers for everything. Like someone would say to me in a meeting, well, this is a spiritual program, not a religious one. Or why the F is it held in a church then, I had all the answers. Now, me being at that intellect, not wanting to know everything and doing good at school and going to university, sort of stuff like that. That's great. Alcoholics, I'm a common alcoholic because alcoholics generally are extremely intelligent people. Now, for me, I used to think that I was a fast learner because as soon as I got out of hospital from my DETs, I stayed sober, my compulsion to drink had left me straight away, right? That was also my downfall because it led me to believe that maybe I'm not an alcoholic, but the only reason I got to that kind of thinking is if I stopped coming to these rooms. What's it's also a downfall for is that because I'm all of those things, I think I know better. So I think I'm a fast learner, but I'm actually a slow learner. And that's good because that means I can't miss anything, Now, if I start coming to meetings, I start thinking, I'll remember all the stuff I'm saying tonight, but I'll be thinking, but, put me another drink. Because, look, I've asked myself this millions of times as well. So why am I still drunk? Sorry, why am I still sober today? It couldn't have been anything I did. It really couldn't have been anything I did. When I hear Arthur all the time, I can't take any credit for his sobriety. I used to get so annoyed at that because I'm the one doing this and I'm the one doing this. I'm going to the meetings. God's not picking me up and going to the meetings, is he? God gives me the strength to be able to get up out of bed and do it. God gives me the strength to keep coming back. God's always been looking after me my whole life. I just wasn't open to see any of that. But once I was beaten enough to become desperate enough to get enough bullshit kicked out of me to become teachable, I could start to see that. And if it was a bus that took that, then so be it. That's part of my journey, And then it said, we'll go from me being when I was younger to hating God, hating everyone, hating everything, then actual fact hating all myself, to someone who tries to stay sober on a daily basis, tries to do the best thing he can on a daily basis. Look, I'm 4 years. I can't expect 30 odd years of my thinking to be gone in 4 years, right? But when I do, and that's the importance of inventories and self-reflection and looking back where you were and looking where you are now, you start realizing how much you've changed. I get angry. I certainly get angry. That's always going to stay with me. The thing is, these days, I notice about myself that I've got a lot longer fuse, you want to call it. It's like I haven't achieved sobriety and I still got a high ego and I still got a low self-esteem, right? But I would say that those things, I like to describe it as those things have cracks in it. That high ego, rigid high ego and low self-esteem have cracks in it, which means it allows some spiritual calmness to come in, and that's all I can ask for myself. But if I start seeing that in myself, and I mean, people could tell me that I've changed all the time, right? The people have told me I've changed all the time. But then, of course, I won't believe it because I know better and I know myself better than everyone else, right? But then you do get glimpses of it. So all I got to say is if you knew you're struggling, you got to stick to the plan. Stick it one day at a time, one moment at a time if you need, because it will happen. It's like when you accept step one, for me, when I accept step one, is I couldn't quite describe the moment when it happened, but I knew it when I saw it. and people saw it in me before I did, you know. I said I'm not the same person as I was, and every time I have days where I feel like shit, but those are the days that are the most important part of the days for me, because the thing is, when I start feeling like shit, there's also like positive stuff like coming in behind it, you know. That's I'm not always negative all the time and angry and deceitful and egotistic and arrogant all the time. I've got moments where I'm just not. Sometimes I get angry at things, you know. We all get angry at things, and I get overly angry at things, and other days I feel indifferent to it. It's like something that's supposed to piss me off might piss me off, right? Something that it's not worth getting pissed off about, I'll get angry at. Other days, it doesn't matter. Right? I've never had days where I could just sit there and just take it. I can sit there and just not even care about it, and you know what's happening around me. That's my whole idea of progress, not perfection. Now, if I steer away from this program long enough, I know I will drink. The only question is, how long will it take? And the moment the alcohol hits my lips, I'm back in that same old cycle of, you know, it's like, yeah, I don't want to go there. And I know from my past that I know exactly what I have to do on a daily basis to make sure that horrible, ugly vengeance and horrible, ugly feeling to drink alcohol, that obsession that only another alcoholic knows what it's like. I know what can cause that to come back, and I can know what can cause that to stay away. And so I'm going to keep doing that. And that's my spiritual journey, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
AA has more than 2 million recovering alcoholics throughout the world. In Australia, there are about 18,000 members. They meet in over 2,000 local meetings spread around the country. Meetings range in size from a handful in some areas to hundreds or more in larger communities. And once again, if anyone you know is struggling with alcohol issues, please call Alcoholics Anonymous in 1300 222222 or visit their website on aa.org.au.